Our next speaker and our final speaker for this lineup before we have our little networking chat, so stay on board to talk with all of our speakers afterwards. Our last speaker in this lineup today is a power horse. So I'm going to have Melissa join me on the spotlight and join us on the screen because she is going to wrap up our session today, and you are going to be so thrilled that you stayed with us all the way through. So Melissa Dinwiddie is a former professional artist and a trained jazz singer, and she's also an improviser. Now, she is now on a mission to build connection and creativity into learning experiences and events. You're thrilled to be here and to learn from Melissa. It's all yours.
How many witches are in this room? Who's getting burned at the stake? That was an actual question that I asked recently in a Zoom room just like this one. And it wasn't for some kind of costume party. I was working with the marketing arm, a marketing agency. And this was a group of high-level folks from across the organization: account executives, sales directors, creatives, recruiters, the legal team. They had just come back from a short breakout room activity. And when I asked them how many witches were in the room, there was a little laughter. And then about half of them rather sheepishly raised their hands. So what was going on here? Well, I will get to that in a moment. But first, I should explain that I use play to help organizations perform better. Because although you may think of work and play as opposites, actually, play is not the opposite of work. Play is how we make work more effective. So what is play anyway? Well, for our purposes here, I define play as anything that is joyful and fun and helps you feel more energized. When we play, it feels good. We want to do more of it, and we want to do it again. We want to keep doing it. However, we live in a country that has a strong Puritan work ethic. So there's a strong vibe that play is somehow frivolous and a waste of time. And so I believe that this is what has led to this separation of work and play. So much so that we think of them as opposites when they're not. Play is not the opposite of work. Play is how we make work more effective. Now, play not only feels good, it's good for us. Play aids in brain development, it supports brain health, it literally makes us smarter. And according to research published by the Association for Psychological Science, play at work is linked with less stress, less fatigue, less boredom, and less burnout. Play is also positively associated with job satisfaction, sense of competence, and creativity. And according to a study published in the Journal of Vocational Behavior, employees were more engaged on days when they designed their work to be more playful. So yeah. So how do you incorporate play at work? Well, I see three broad ways. The first is recess. Pretty common here in Silicon Valley where I live. You got ping pong tables, foosball, activities to do on your break, but that is really table stakes. And there's still this separation between work and play. So moving beyond recess is to start to have a culture of play. My husband works at Workday, huge company, and they do this really well. For example, they have a daily scavenger hunt in their Slack channel where people post prompts, and there's some kind of prompt to people post photos. It's very playful and fun. And that's just one tiny example of how playfulness is woven throughout the culture. And then there is work as play. And this is where I come in. As a trainer, facilitator, and experience designer, I'm brought in to transform boring meetings, trainings, and events into creative, interactive, playful experiences that attendees rave about afterwards. And companies also bring me in to help a team or organization do some pretty intense transformation. So for example, let's go back to that session I was running with the marketing arm. When everyone came back from the breakout rooms and I asked if there were any witches or warlocks in the room, they had just done a short game in pairs where one partner pretends to be a time traveler from 500 years ago. Now imagine you're the other partner and a time traveler, bing, has suddenly appeared in front of you. And you now have 2 minutes to explain to them what a cell phone is. Now think about it. There's a very strong likelihood that your partner is going to think you're a witch. So what are you going to say to them to explain what a cell phone is without being condemned to burn at the stake? What do you say to convince them that you're not a witch or a warlock? This is a challenging exercise. It always generates a lot of laughs, and it's really hard. Now, of course, in real life, what are the chances that you are going to encounter a time traveler from 500 or even 5 years ago? If you do, please let me know. I would very much like to meet them. It's obviously not going to happen, but it's guaranteed that everyone in this room is going to encounter lots of people who have different contexts from your own, different backgrounds, different generations, different cultures, different areas of expertise. And guess what? Those people are a lot like time travelers. And if you can develop the muscle of finding common ground with them and figuring out how to speak to them in their language, you are golden. And once people play this time traveler game, the lessons never leave them. Case in point, one of the researchers I worked with at Facebook told me that it was this very game that helped her figure out how to break a communication deadlock with a non-researcher teammate. She realized he wasn't being a jerk. She was the witch. And once she realized it was her job to help him understand, what had been a frustrating moment became a really exciting moment of clarity. And that is just one example of why play is not the opposite of work. Play is how we make work more effective. If you would like to see how your leaders in high potential stand, download my free assessment at bit.ly/leadership assessment tool. And in the meantime, remember the time traveler game. If someone doesn't understand you, it's your job to convince them you're not a witch or a warlock. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. I'm just trying to imagine explaining this device to my grandmother. Like, I don't even need to go 500 years. I just have to go back to my grandmother and she would be like, I just need a little bit more information. And we would have it definitely could not happen in 2 minutes. I am so thankful that you are part of this group and that you help meeting planners and learning and development strategists to make their events more fun. Because when our events are more fun, people remember the learnings, they remember the ahas that were brought to them in all of their amazing speakers, the concurrents, the breakouts, the labs. It all helps to feed it. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking our illustrious spot as to rounding out the brilliance in the room. I thank you so much, Melissa. You're amazing. And I'm so glad you're here.